All right, this is good news, guys. So it looks like the IG Live is working. My DMs are down, so guys, I cannot respond to DMs for I don't know how long, but Instagram is being really, really weird right now. I don't even know if this live will go out to everyone that it should be going out to. But we're going to get started. We're going to do a whiteboard Wednesday every 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays. And we're going to cover how to maximize your credit tonight. So let me get up here and let's start going. For anybody that wants questions, feel free to put in the question mark box, guys. I won't be able to see these as I'm talking, but at the end of this presentation, I'll kind of start from the beginning and make sure that I answer all the questions that you guys have. All right, so we're talking about how to maximize credit tonight, guys. And this is actually a pretty simple topic. It's not really, really complex. I think people really make it complex, and they go to, the end. Basically, they go to great lengths, essentially, to take care of their credit. I'm going to put it straight. If you guys are responsible at all with your money, which is what I'm going to say right here, be responsible. Just like basic, like, hey, you pay your bills in time, you pay your credit card off in time, all those kind of things. Your credit score is going to be really, really high. It's just natural that it will kind of follow. It's kind of a byproduct of good finances. So I wouldn't stress too much about credit. Now, if it's really bad at the current moment because past mistakes that you guys made, don't beat yourself up about it, but also work on the things that we talk about tonight to then improve it so you can kind of pinpoint where your issues are. So when you break apart credit, you're going to hear a few terms, right? You might hear FICO score, you might hear credit score, obviously, you might hear Vantage score, and basically those are different scoring models. So there's essentially a couple scoring models. At the end of the day, it's all the same thing. Everyone's looking at the same thing. The three big credit bureaus that are actually reporting your credit score are at Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So Equifax, a couple years back, if you guys remember, 2019, there was a huge breach, Equifax breach. People's credit was compromised or whatever. Personal data was compromised with Equifax. It was along the same time, I think Target had some hackers as well. So that Equifax breach actually just got paid. I think the settlement actually literally is on its way to my mailbox here soon. But you guys might have been impacted by that a couple years ago. But these are the three big guys that are doing this your credit score every single year. So let's go ahead and walk through the basic pieces of a credit score. And we'll talk about the percentage and kind of what each is. So number one is payment history. Like I said, and that's 35% of the credit score in total of how it's kind of calculated, right? So 35% impact. So when it comes to payment history, guys, it's literally just paying your bills on time. There's nothing else to it. So one recommendation I have, if you guys aren't already doing this, is have an automatic scheduling system within your payment history for your credit cards to make sure if you forget to pay that your bill's paid on time and there's no overage and you don't get into the position that it's oh crap, I have to pay interest. If you've ever had interest on credit cards and you're not out of those in that situation, you still have credit card interest, I would stop using entirely. I'm going to put it hard. I'm going to be very, very real with you guys. You can't control your spending at that point in time if you're over leveraging and overspending on a credit card that you can't pay off. So just cease that. Just it's okay. Just cease it and use a debit card going forward, at least for a short time until that debt balance is paid off entirely. And then eventually, if you become more financially secure and financially literate and stuff like that, then maybe you can start using your credit card again. But if you have credit card interest, which is 1 in every 2 people, there's no reason to be using a credit card. The credit card industry, guys, is smarter than the average person out there. They know the human psychology. They know how to get you to swipe. They know the incentives. They know the cashback program. They're not giving us cashback for free. They're giving us cashback to control our behavior. And so they're not stupid. They deep dive into the psychology component, and don't be a victim of that, which is 1 in every 2 people. So I'm sure there's some people here tonight that have either been impacted by it, have seen somebody impacted by it, or something along the lines of that. If you are struggling with credit card debt, please just stop using your credit card. Please just pay it off and make it very simple. Again, payment history, guys, is number one, is 35%. Now, the second one is credit amounts owed and credit usage of 30%. This is another huge component of this whole entire credit score. So credit usage is simply your credit limit and then what you actually run through that credit. So if you have a $10,000 limit and you spend $2,000, that is a 20% utilization rate. You want to ideally, and I'm going to go over here to tip number 1, keep that below 10% is ideal. Now, under 30% is what the credit card scoring models would tell you to stay under, at least under 30%. But ideally, if you could stay under 10%, that would be even better. And theoretically, eventually just get small, as your limit goes higher and higher, just get lower and lower. Which brings me to credit tip number 2. Okay, so asking for an increase. When I was with Discover, I had a Discover card. My very first card ever in college was a Discover credit card. And I would go on the app and I would literally ask for an increase fairly regularly, actually every 3 months. And I increased my score from I don't remember what it was initially, maybe 3,000, all the way up to $20,000 limit. But I never changed my spending habits. So my spending habits remained the same, but as I increased my availability, my utilization, number 2, would go down. So make sure you guys are using that from a credit usage standpoint. Try to ask for increases. Try to keep your usage obviously below 30 for sure, but try to keep it below 10 if you can. And that's going to boost your score very, very fast. Number 3, guys, is length of credit history. So 15% is this component. And this is something that you can't fully control, obviously. It's kind of when you started and when you how long you've had your credit open. So you obviously have some bit of a restriction here, and you can't increase it outside of time. So that's just a time component. So if you're kind of paying your bills on time, you don't have high utilization, and you start just having it for a long period of time, that's all good. That's pretty much 80% of your score right there in the first 3 buckets. Number 4 is credit mix. So this is a mix in it's kind of a diversity type deal of types of credit that you have, mortgage, credit card, etc. I do want to go to the top right-hand corner and say, do not open store credit cards for the 20% discount at checkout or whatever. That is so silly don't do that. That's consumer debt that you don't need. It's not that big of a benefit, to be honest, and you're really just opening yourself up to more victimization. So stay away from store credit cards. Don't worry about opening a bunch of pieces of credit just to improve your score. Again, this is only a 10%. So I hear oftentimes people should I get a card debt just to improve my credit score? That's so silly. Guys, remember, credit score is it's good to have. Again, if you just are responsible, your credit score will go up. But to obsess over a credit score is so silly because it really is just to take out more credit to then pay it off, to take out more credit to pay it off. It's a vicious and ever-ending cycle of leverage that you can't really get out of. So, it's okay to use. I'm not against it or anything like that, but just be smart about it and don't over stress about a credit score. Just kind of increase it. Obviously, your rates are going to determine different things that you get, like a mortgage and things like that are significant. So don't get me wrong there. Don't hear me wrong. But to obsess over it really doesn't make sense. Anything over a 740 and above is pretty much all of the same. So if you're trying to get a mortgage and you have a 750 or an 800, you're really not going to get a difference of a rate. You're pretty much in the same bucket at that point. So stress for that 740 and above, try to get to that level. And that, again, will come by being responsible with time. So it's not that hard to do as long as you're just paying your bills on time, basically, and literally keeping your utilization low. And that would naturally come, so don't freak out about it. Your other thing is new credit is the 10% bucket. So these 2 bottom ones are pretty small. And that's obviously what it sounds like, new credit that you're taking on. So 10% there as well. And those are the 5 big pieces of how do you calculate your credit score, okay? But 2 other things you really want to be aware of are down below. So credit inquiries. They can either be hard inquiries or soft inquiries. A lot of times, whenever you get a mortgage out or you try to get a car loan out, they'll run a hard inquiry and they will ask you, hey, can we run your credit report? And most people blindly will say yes. So if you're in a car dealership and you're trying to loan a car and they say, yeah, we're going to go run your credit, and you say, yeah, sure, I'm getting a car, I have to do that. Be very careful, because what happens is they can go to do 3 or 4 different hard inquiries at different lenders, and that could really impact your score really, really fast. A soft inquiry is when they have to pull, but they don't actually run the actual credit report itself. And so it's a soft and it doesn't impact your score hardly at all. Maybe like a Credit Karma, if you've ever used like a Credit Karma guys app, Highly recommend to use Credit Karma or something simple like that, just to kind of keep track. But again, don't obsess over this. But this would talk. Credit Karma would show you your different pieces of the credit pie, or per se, and kind of show you exactly where you are in relation to that. Lastly is derogatory marks. So anytime like you literally like have an outstanding medical bill and you go to collections and things like that, do not take on derogatory marks. Don't let it get to collections. That's a total disaster, and you don't want to be in that position, because that's going to just plummet your credit score really, really fast. Some more things, guys. So some more tips. So we talked about tip 1. We talked about tip 2. So tip 3 is authorized users. So this is a really cool thing. If you guys have children out there and you're trying to build their credit through, them being like 7 or 8 or whatever, every credit card company is going to be slightly different in the fact that like some don't report to the credit bureau. They'll actually add an authorized user. I have a Chase Freedom Unlimited. It takes my daughter, I have her as an authorized user, but it does not report her social security number to the credit bureau, so it doesn't actually help her credit score. So find a card. If you do have a card, check. I would definitely be checking this to see if you can add your children to as an authorized user, and that reporting or that credit company reports to the bureau so that you can build your kids' credit before they're even 18. It's a really cool thing. So I would definitely recommend that if you guys have that. And tip 4 is from annualcreditreport.com. So you can go to this website, annualcreditreport.com, and then pull your report from these 3 different credit companies right here: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And you can do this one time per year. So just do it one time per year. What I would do is literally schedule a calendar block today or whatever, if you haven't done it. Run it tonight, do it tonight, check your credit. The goal of this, guys, is to make sure there's no like fraud out there. People aren't opening credit. There's nothing that you aren't expecting on your credit report. You're just gonna do a brief check through everything and make sure like you're good to go. But I would do this once a time annually. I would put it on your calendar so you don't forget. I just put it on my iPhone, my calendar, and I say every single year I think it's July or something like that. I just did one recently, and I just check my credit. I kind of do a quick review, make sure that nobody's taking out stuff. This is a really, really good thing to do. It's a kind of like that like health check per se. But again, you shouldn't find anything that you're not. It's kind of one of those completeness checks. Like you shouldn't be finding things you aren't expecting. But if something pops up, you might want to inquire about it, obviously. Okay, so a few alerts. We talked about do not open store credit cards on the top right. But actually 2 other things is, if you're trying to build your credit, don't get suckered into one of these agencies that's like, we're going to help you build your credit in 30 days type deal. Just build it the right way. Learn this, educate yourself, and then just go ahead and attack it that way. You're going to pay them a fee of everything they save you. And I don't know. There's too many complications, and you're paying them at the end of the day, and you really don't need anybody. You just need to be responsible and listen to these right here and kind of put your finances in order that way. So you don't need a credit company, credit agency, reporting agency, or whatever that's going to reach out to you, or a credit repair agency. The other one is freeze your child's credit. This is something that I've recently done with my own credit, actually. So freezing credit in general, guys, if you aren't planning on opening credit lines, you can go ahead and freeze your credit. So that's something we've done. And we've also done it for Logan. So Logan's obviously 14 months. She's not going to have credit in her name. But one target of fraudsters are going to be children, because from 0 to 18, those children aren't going to probably take out credit. So parents aren't going to check their kid's credit score, obviously, or their credit reports. And so a lot of fraudsters go straight to the child that's 2 years old, 3 years old, and will abuse it. And if it's not caught early enough, it can be really damaging long term. So just go ahead and freeze your child's credit and be smart about that. There's no reason not to do that or to keep that open. And it's really quick. You can just go to these different websites and do it that way. And just type in, literally Google like Equifax freeze credit, and you can figure it out that way. It would take you directly to a link and everything like that. But guys, this is credit score in a nutshell. Again, I think this is a pretty straightforward Whiteboard Wednesday in the sense that like, I wouldn't get overly complicated with this. I think there's a lot of questions around credit, but this is like the crux of it. This is kind of how you look at it, and as long as you abide by these rules, these basic rules, you're fine. But again, don't get caught up in taking out more debt just to improve your credit score, because that's an never-ending cycle. Just go ahead and maximize this, pay off your bill, run your basic bills through here, pay it off on time, and you'll see your credit score drastically increase. If you have other debts and you're paying off these other debts, that's going to obviously help as well. So always be paying off your debts, obviously, as we always talk about, especially bad debt, but anything. As you're decreasing your debt, your score is going to obviously increase. So this is a little snapshot into it, guys, tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and flip this around and answer any questions you guys have. All right, so my Instagram was giving me an error a second ago, but I think you guys are all still here. All right, guys, I'm going to go to the very, very top and answer any questions that you guys have. I'm going to put questions below so you guys can start putting questions in the question mark box, anything about credit, obviously, or anything else in general. But I'm going to scroll to the top and see if there's anything you guys want to cover that wasn't covered tonight. What's up, Jabari? How you doing, man? Let's see what we got here. Just DM'd you. Yes, guys, so anybody that came in, my DMs are not working at the moment, so I cannot respond to any DMs, FYI. Okay, so it looks like most of these questions were answered. I do see this. If you cancel your first credit card that you opened 12 years ago, will it hurt your score? Technically, yes. So if you guys are closing cards, I wouldn't necessarily close your card actually out. Like, you could stop using it if you're like having an abuse problem with it, but I wouldn't actually close it because that will hurt your credit score. So I would either like literally physically cut it up, throw it away, or put it like in your closet or something where you won't touch it, just so you don't use it. But I wouldn't actually close that actual account. Eventually, if there's no like activity, it might close out itself, but it will be along the way. So, budget will answer your CAS, but I want to say yes, it will. Dre, I don't know what you mean by that comment, man. Thanks for tip number 3. Good to know. What was tip number 3 specifically? That was the authorized user thing. Yeah, authorized users, guys, are fantastic. It's a really cool way for children to build credit. Obviously, you can use it for other, spouse or whatever, but I like to use it for children if you obviously have kids. Great advice. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for the kind comments. What's the website for credit report? Annualcreditreport.com. And you know that because it's in the academy in I think it's week 13 or it's week 15 in there. But I have that exact link in there for you. Can I go over tip 3 with the child Social Security? Yeah, so authorized user, guys. So good question. So with the specifically the authorized users, when you have authorized user, most credit cards are going to give you that option to add an authorized user. The problem is a lot of companies, credit companies in particular, will not report your Social Security, your child's Social Security, to the credit reporting agencies. Therefore, it won't actually help their credit score. So they can go use your credit card because they're an authorized user. They might have one, but it won't actually help their credit. So I found out this the hard way with Chase Freedom Unlimited. I actually went to the bank and everything. I had a rant that day about it on IG Live, and I tried to attempt to add my daughter, which I added her, but they weren't reporting it to the agency. It kind of bummed me out. At the end of the day, she'll be fine, so it's not the big of a deal, but it's something to definitely look into. I forget, guys, I posted a link about which companies. Everyone's different, right? So sometimes age is going to play a factor, like 7-year-old and up counts. Anything below that doesn't count. I think Capital One, if I remember correctly, was a really good one at reporting the Social Security agencies or bureaus. So I don't remember exactly all of them. I think Amex and Capital One were pretty solid with reporting that stuff. Any tips on removing derogatory marks? Yeah, so I believe, don't quote me on this, there is a way around this. So typically they stay on your credit report for 7 years, but you're able to put in a request, and you have to Google the form. I forget exactly the step-by-step, but there is a way to try to attempt that, but typically it does not get removed from my understanding. I've never actually done that, so again, it's one of those things I know about, I hear about, but I've never actually experienced, which is a good thing. And so I've never actually done it myself, but I know some people people out there have said to do that. I don't know how the success rate or anything like that. If I have $17,000 in credit debt, is it sometimes better to take a personal loan to pay credit card debt to lower interest? Good question there. So first things first, guys, if you have credit card debt, cut the credit card, get rid of it. It's okay. Just come to the realization like, hey, I obviously have a spending problem or whatever. I've put too much stuff on my credit card. Medical bills hit me. I just swipe, whatever. But don't get yourself caught in this vicious cycle of continually using it while you're trying to pay it down, or you'll never move the needle. If you do have a bunch of credit, you could. This is a good strategy. It's not the solution, but it's a good strategy. Is to move to a zero balance transfer, or do a zero balance transfer to a 0% credit card. So at least you save yourself on the interest. But remember, those zero balance transfers are usually 12-month promotions. And so by the end of the 12 months, all of a sudden you're going to have to do the same thing again. So you still need a good detailed debt payoff plan in order before you just do this stuff recklessly. Because like if you just transfer, it's just going to be an ever-ending cycle. You still need a really good detailed plan. It's not going to fix the problem, but at least it's going to help you from a percentage standpoint. I know one of my clients, or one of my students did a HELOC, and they basically consolidated everything in there as well, and obviously a way lower rate. That's a good first step. That's not the solution, if that makes sense. So I would definitely do that. I would definitely take advantage of that, not put yourself in 20% credit card debt forever, but I would also have a really, really detailed strategy, an aggressive strategy to pay off your debt. For anybody out there with credit card debt, I would pause investing as well. I've been very vocal about saying this, and it's very common sense as to why I say that. If you have a 20% credit interest that you're being charged, it is a no-brainer to take all of your all your money that you have and put it to a fixed guaranteed 20% return. You're not going to get a 20% return in the market. I know during the height of the bull market, there was like crazy influencers out there saying like, hey, you should definitely be investing all of your money, even with credit card debt. Like, that's silly. I can't believe that was actually legit advice, if I'm being honest. And this person's actually a pretty big account, which is even scarier. So be careful of who you're listening to, first off, and be very, 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 the only goal that you should have, if you have credit card debt of 20%, there's a few reasons behind this. Obviously, the numbers make a lot of sense. But number two is, if you guys do have credit card debt, the numbers make sense, but also there's a behavior issue at stake. And when you aren't taking all of your income and throwing it straight to that debt, you're not focused on the right things, because that's a massive red flag. That's a massive issue that you need to address as fast as humanly possible. You either gain compound interest or you pay it, and that's what you're basically doing with the credit card debt. So we want to pay this consumer debts off, get rid of it, and then eventually invest and have an emergency fund. But we do not want to invest if we have 20-25% interest rates on our credit. There's not even a chance in this world that I would even think about that. I think it's a huge behavioral. There is an argument, and hear me out on this. There's an argument that if you do get an employer match, you get a 100% return on your money. And so some people say, hey, for a 401k, 100% match, go ahead and invest the match. I disagree with that, and here's why. Obviously, yes, the math does work in that favor, but it's not a math problem at all. This is not a math problem. If you have credit debt, you should not be worried about the math. Clearly, you haven't figured it out with 20% interest rates. So don't try to play the math game. Don't get suckered into the points game or something like that. Just attack your credit card debt, and that should be your sole focus, nothing else on your books. What's the best way to keep a 700 plus credit score? Everything we talked about tonight. You should be way above that. If you do everything we talked about tonight, guys, you'll be fine. Just, again, the biggest thing, be responsible, pay off your bills. Do this for a long time, you'll be totally fine. What happens in 18 years when child credit score is still frozen? You have to unfreeze it. Yeah, good question. So you can freeze your credit. My credit score is frozen right now because we're not taking out credit, but we might, if something happens, something changes in the near future, where we would have to do that, we would have to unfreeze it to do so. Can you please explain the downside of hard inquiries? Yes, it just deducts your points. So if you're at 700, you have a hard inquiry, that's going to bring your points down a lot. Very straightforward as to what the downsides are. You can have some, guys, like you might have to have some, right? So if you have a mortgage, you're taking out a mortgage, like you're going to have a hard inquiry. That's okay. It's not a big deal. It's if you have like a lot of them, usually like two, and like they drop I think hard inquiries drop every 2 years. so 24 months. So as long as you don't have like you're racking up a ton during this time, you're taking out tons of loans all over the place, you should be fine. Just don't rack up. Like, be careful with the car. If you're getting a car and they run it at every single location, they hit you with 4 hard inquiries on one loan. Just be very careful with that. Buying a house with credit versus manual underwriting. Great question. So credit or manual underwriting. Manual underwriting is probably a more legit strategy. Like, it's more legitimate, and it makes a lot more sense in my opinion. Like, it's more common sense. They're actually going to do some manual underwriting and like check into your finances to see if you actually can afford a house, versus credit is just they're basing it on score, which tells them a number of factors, obviously, that wraps up into that score. But manual underwriting makes a lot more sense. I would do that if you can. I know what's the Franklin American? No, I can't remember who does this. With Ramsey recommends them. I did when I was doing my refinance. I actually went through that. I tried to go through them. I worked with Wilden Nord is his name. I just can't think of the company it's called, but they do manual underwriting there as well. I ultimately went with my dad because he works in the industry, so it made sense for that because we get the family discount a little slower than the average rate. So we went with my dad, but this company with Dave Ramsey backed. You probably be able to Google mortgage company Dave Ramsey. I can't remember who it is though. Aaron, do you mind looking that up? I'll have my wife look it up real fast. How old can you start to begin your children's credit? Really right away. Like, for some authorized users, it just depends. Like, I added my daughter like at 4 months with Chase Freedom, but again, it doesn't report the Social Security to the bureau, so it doesn't help me. But some places are 7 years old. Some people are 5 years old. Some people are no age, like 13 years old is common. Churchill Mortgage, guys, is the mortgage company I was referring to earlier. Thanks, Aaron. What did I miss on the whiteboard back there? You guys can watch the replays, guys. These are all on my YouTube. So if you guys ever want to go to watch some Whiteboard Wednesdays, of previous Whiteboard Wednesdays, just go straight to my YouTube. And I have one of life insurance right now on there. I have Roth versus traditional. We have a lot of good Whiteboard Wednesdays on there. And I'll continue to upload everything to my YouTube. So go to my YouTube. Is there a way to find me old 401ks with my social? D-Love, send me, go to my link in my bio. I have a free service that will find your old 401ks for you. It is called Capitalize, and it will roll your old 401ks to IRAs for you as well, totally free of charge, no cost. Best service out there by far, and you can find that in my link in my bio. FTX is in financial trouble. I saw that. SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, they sold out to Binance, and his net worth, I think, dropped like $16 billion or something crazy, $14 billion to like, I think he's now below $1 billion. But that's what you guys would get with the crypto world. It's, again, like I've spoken on this at length, but you're going to see a lot of that stuff over the next couple of years, especially right now. I mean, Bitcoin dropped to like 16,000 last time before this live. There's a lot of crazy stuff going to go on in the crypto world, but there's a tremendous opportunity when the markets drop. And so I'm still buying, I'm still dollar cost averaging into crypto. I love it, but remember, don't just take that and just go buy 25% of your portfolio. Understand kind of how I approach crypto as well. Topic tonight was credit, how to maximize your credit. All right, let's see what else. Binance backed out. Okay, so that's interesting, Justin, or Just King. So I knew Binance initially did it. I didn't know if they backed out, but one thing about that is they might have been exposing them a little bit. It'd be interesting. Yeah, I buy Bitcoin, Eric. Oh, that's probably a bot. I don't know. Maybe it's not. If you're not a bot, I apologize, but there's a lot of bots that pop in here. Again, guys, any questions in the comment box below, or question mark box, and I want to make sure I answer everything. But yeah, tonight, guys, every single Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, mark your calendars. We talk about some specific topic in detail, and it's your topic. So you guys have to send me a request and say, hey, what do you want to what do I want to talk about on Whiteboard Wednesday? What do you want me to teach you about? And I will break down a really, really detailed lesson of the bullet point, important pieces of it. They did back out this afternoon, yeah. I didn't read a lot about it. I did see that initial offer, but Eric, you're good, man. It looked like when I saw profits and you asked Bitcoin, it sounded like one of those bot things. But yeah, guys, I'm going to end the live tonight. Remember, my DMs are not open right now. For whatever reason, Instagram has like denied the actions I'm taking in there. So it might be a couple days if you guys do DM me for me to get back to you. But in the meantime, I probably wouldn't send me a DM because I don't know if it will go through. And I'll be back probably normal within a day or two. And I will upload this as well if I can. But again, go to my YouTube, guys. Watch all my YouTube videos with the Whiteboard Wednesdays. Really good topics that you can select there that might help you guys out. All right, guys. Have a good night.